Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you, and what I'm going to do then is let you see my VLE. Okay, so that you should be able to see my VLE at the moment, and I'm in my home page, and I'm going to go to one of my courses, and what we're talking about today, just for a brief 10 minutes, is blocks that we can add to courses. So I'll go into my course called John Training 2. Okay, now a block is something which you add to a course which adds functionality. And very simply, how you know if you've got blocks in is because you can see them. And if you look at my course here, which is just my training course, you can see these grey rectangles down the left-hand side, and I've actually also got some down the right-hand side as well, are blocks. And you can add those to the course, and they bring in certain kinds of functionality. Obviously, some of them are standard, such as the navigation block, the course administration block, and so forth on that side. And often it's the case that you put the additional ones on the right-hand side, or you can have blocks on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side, depending what you prefer. So we're going to look at how do we add a block to a course. Okay, so first of all, I need to turn the editing on. So I'm going to click on the Turn Editing On button. And then if I scroll down on the left-hand side, I'll see at the bottom of the left-hand side, it says Add a Block. And Add a Block is basically where you find the menu for the block. So if I drop that menu down, you can see there's actually a lot of blocks in Moodle. We can actually add other blocks to the system. These are only the ones we've got in just now. And actually there's quite a range of blocks available from the Moodle.org website. So I'm just going to show 3 or 4 just now, which I think add some nice extra functionality to the VLE. An obvious one, a very simple one, is calendar. Some people like to have a calendar in their course. So just to show how a block works, if I choose Add Block, Add Calendar, then what you'll find is that the calendar will be added to my course, and by default they're always added to the left-hand side. Now, what you then want to do, what you probably then want to do, is move it to where you want it, and in my case I want it over on the right-hand side. So while the editing's still on, I mouse over that 4-way arrow, I drag it over to the right-hand side, and I scroll up a wee bit so that it's in place just under the block there. And then I've got calendar in my course. Now, while I've got the editing turned on, you'll see that I can also do things to the calendar. And in particular, if we look at this cog, with most blocks, you have this little cog icon. And if you drop down the arrow behind it, it lets you, beside it, it lets you configure the calendar block or configure whatever block you're in. So in this case, I'm going to choose Configure Calendar Block. And what you'll see then is that I have a range of options. In this case, because it's a calendar block, they're pretty limited. So it's really about where it displays and how it displays and so forth. I'm not going to bother changing any of that just now. So if I cancel that and come back to the calendar block, there's the calendar block in just now. If I turn off editing, it'll be sitting there permanently until I decide I want to get rid of it. If I want to get rid of it, I turn on the editing, I drop down this little cog icon again, and instead of configuring the block, I delete the block, or hide the block is also an option there as well. In this case, I'm going to delete the block. It asks me, are you sure you want to delete the block? And I say yes. Okay. Okay. The calendar block just is really there. I was doing that to show you how blocks work in general. Let's look at a couple more blocks which are quite useful. So I'll keep the editing turned on. Now, one of the blocks that I've got in my system at the moment is the sharing cart. Now, the sharing cart is something that does a very useful function, and one which quite a few people ask us about. And the sharing cart basically lets you move materials from one course to another. So the way it works is I've got the sharing cart at the moment in this course. I've added it to this course. So I've added it already just to save a little time here. And if I want to, now I've got the editing turned on, I can, and in fact I won't actually see the sharing cart unless I've got the editing turned on. I can, as you can see, I can do various things. So if I've got a file in here, I can copy it to this course. So in this case, I've got a file called exponential functions free menu. It's actually a SCORM object. And if I choose copy to course, then what you see, I then see all the places where I might copy it. I'll copy it into week 4, copy here, and it has a wee processing, and it's thrown up an error. I don't know why it's done that. It shouldn't. It might be because it's a SCORM object that I've been trying to copy. But if I go back again, and I thought maybe no, it would have copied. Unfortunately, in this instance, it hasn't. I don't know why it's thrown up that error. But normally, we certainly use it all the time, and it seems to work pretty well. Mostly what you would want to do is either move items from the sharing cart into here, or move items from here into the sharing cart. So for example, if I like this intermediate course notes, and I feel I want to put it into the sharing cart, then I'm just actually, I think this isn't, I think for some reason it's given me errors. I should be able to just move things across into the sharing cart like this by dragging them across, and it's giving me errors at the moment. So I'm afraid I think I'm going to have to look at that one, because it's obviously not doing things as I wanted it to. But normally speaking, you can drag things into the sharing cart, and you can move things out from the sharing cart by using that move into folder. And also, if you look at items here, you know, if I choose an item here, what I should be able to do is move that into the sharing cart in such a way as to be able to then use it in another course. Let me just go back to John Training 2 for a second. Okay, so if let's assume it is working, because obviously there's some problem with that which I'll need to track down. It may be because I'm on a strange machine. But if I go into another course that I own, so I'm going to turn editing off for the moment, and I'm going to go into a course called another John Training course which I'm on. So I'll go to the dashboard, my home page, and I'll go to I should have a John Training. Okay, we'll go into the e-learning webinars course. I use that one. And in this case, if I want to use something that's in the sharing cart, I have to add the sharing cart block to this course as well. So I'm going to turn the editing on, and if I add the block, add a block, and I add the block of sharing cart, which is there, you'll see that that block has now appeared in this course, and all the content that was in the sharing cart. Now, otherwise, anything that I've moved into the sharing cart from the other course, I can also then make appear in this course. And obviously, if I wanted to, I'm just going to change the topic name there for a minute. Section 1 there. If I wanted to move something into this section 1 area, all I do is click on the copy to course icon here, click on that, and it should open up places that I can move the stuff to. Now obviously, as I say, I seem to be having a problem. I'll just try one more time. I'll try the copy here. No, it's given me an error of some sort. I'll have to track down what that is, but I can assure you the sharing cart does work. It's definitely one worth using. Okay, we'll turn that editing off there just now, and we'll go back to my home page, and I'll go back to my training course, and I'll just show you a couple more blocks that I think can be quite useful. Oh, the machine's quite slow at the moment. Okay, I'll go back to John Training 2. Now, another block that I think can be useful is the activities block. What you find is if you're teaching a course with students, you may have a lot of content in the course, and buried within that content you may have a number of activities. And unless you're very good at labeling your activities, or unless your students are good at spotting the icons, sometimes those activities don't jump out to them. So one thing to do is to add an activities block to your course. So what I'm going to do in this case is turn my editing back on again, and I'm going to come down to the add a block, and I'm going to add a block called activities. And the block is right there at the top, activities, add a block, and just let it come in, right? And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it across to the other side. So I'll use the four-headed arrow while the editing is still turned on, scroll up there and drop the block underneath there. Now, if I turn off the editing, what you'll see is that anything that is an activity within the course as opposed to a file gets listed in this block, and they get organized under categories, so assignments, forums, and so on and so forth. So if your students want to quickly see all the assignments in your course, if you've put the activities block in, all they have to do is click on assignments like that, and quickly you'll see a list of assignments. So Erkan submission, project submission, test, project submission. As I say, this is just a test course, so there's not a ton of content in it. But instantly your students get a quick way to see all the assignments. Or if it were the case that they wanted to see if you had something with a lot of forums in it or other types of activities, you know, then that's a good way to flag them up for the students. I think it's used most often. I was talking to one of my colleagues in computing, and he, because of the nature of the computing courses, have a lot of content in them, he uses the activities block to show up assignments for students. So I'd say, again, that's a good block to use as well. Then a final block, which I think is worth flagging up, is something called progress bar. And in a way, it kind of relates to activities. And again, this block is for students being able to see the work they've done in some way. So I'm actually going to go to another course this time to do that. And I'm going to jump to back to site home. And I'm going to go into a travel and tourism course, if you just bear with me for a second, in business and finance, and on the Cardonal campus, and it's the second year HN travel and tourism course, because I want a course that has both students and assignments built into it. And I'm coming to this marketing planning in travel and tourism unit. So, sorry, no, I've picked the wrong unit there. The unit I want is planning a sustainable development in tourism. Sorry, I think that's the titles feel, no, again, I've got the wrong one. Sorry, if you bear with me for a second. It's perhaps tour operations. That's the one. Yep, that's the one I wanted. Okay, tour operations. So, okay, so here's a course which has both assignments and students. Now, the students might want some way of checking how they're progressing. That's why this block is called a progress bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, turn the editing on in this course. And this is a course which has quite a lot of assignments and quite a lot of content in it as well. And these kind of blocks are good for a course like this. So I'm going to add a block, and I'm going to add a block called progress bar. Now, as soon as I've added that block called progress bar, and in this case I'm just going to leave it down on the left-hand side for speed, what it says to me is it says, select activities and resources that you want to show in the progress bar, or let all the activities and resources appear in the progress bar. Now, I'm just going to select a couple. So I click the select activities and resources. Remember, I'm doing this while the editing's still turned on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down the list, and what you've got here is a list of all the activities and resources in here. Do you want a progress report for one of them, two of them, all of them, whatever, you know? So I'm just going to choose the first couple. I'm going to choose maybe about, well, these two are actually hidden from the students. So the first couple, so the first couple of, I'll do the file, yes. I'll do the forum, yes. And I'll do another file there, yes. Now, one of the things they do, if it's files you're choosing, it'll monitor whether students have actually accessed them or not. You know, so I'm just choosing a few things, but it could be quizzes, it could be discussion fora, it could be all sorts of activities that you expect the students to do. So, and you can see I'm scrolling down the list just to let you see that it selects everything that's in the course, so you don't necessarily want to turn everything on. I'm going to choose Save Changes, and it's just going to take a wee minute to run through that and create the progress bar for me. Okay, now I'm going to turn the editing off so we can see how it displays in the course. And if I come down to that block now, what you'll see is it's created a progress bar for each one of the 3 assignments that I ticked. The assessment information one, the ideas for package holiday, and the pest factors one. Now, this bar works for students and for staff. So if I'm a staff member, I can click overview of students, and it'll show me all the students in the course and what their progress is, whether they've achieved or not achieved the items that I've ticked. So you can see, for example, here we've got all the students, and against them we've got the progress bar showing what percentage they've gone towards achieving any particular item that I've ticked. So you can see the green is showing either ongoing or but not yet completed, and the blue is showing not yet touched at all, you know. So it's a quick and handy progress bar. And you can see one of my students is Harry Potter. He's not looked at anything at all because he's actually just a test student that we use. So his is all blue and it says 0%. You can see someone else is 33% there, 33%. So these are people who have accessed these files, which I marked as one of the assignments or one of the items for the progress bar. So if I log out just now, remember this course is called, just to remind ourselves of the title, this course is called HND Travel DJP P35, just to remind myself of the title. So I log out as myself, and I log back in as Harry Potter with this password, and log in. And I'm now in as Harry Potter. I'm on my home page, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the home page filtering drop-down boxes to choose only HND Travel and Tourism 2, which was where that unit was, and it was this unit, DJ9 P35. So I'll go into that unit where I've added the progress block, and I scroll down, and Harry gets roughly the same view of it as well, but except his view is for him alone. So all he has to do is look at the progress block here. He doesn't get any overview of all the students, he just gets his own. So it's either green or blue for him. Has he completed this? Has he completed this? Has he completed this? No, no, no. So it's a very simple kind of visual aid for the students to say where they are with certain tasks within a course. So I actually think, you know, I've tried to make a small theme to the last 2 blocks that I've been showing you. The progress bar and the assignments block are both things which let your students see either how they're doing or get access to the things they need to do within a course. In other words, assignments and so forth. So I actually think blocks add a lot of functionality to courses. Obviously, I had a small problem with the sharing cart there, and I apologize for that, but we do use the sharing cart quite a lot, and I know it works. I think it was a problem because I had a SCORM object in it, but it's certainly one worth using. And as I said, it's worth trawling through the list of blocks in there and seeing if there's anything that sounds like it might be useful. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, if I just jump out now as Harry Potter and jump back in as myself, if I go into my course, I'll just log into my course again. If I go into my course and my John Training course, and I'm thinking about adding a block to my course, then all I have to do really is in that course is turn editing on, look at just waiting for the editing to come on, sorry, I think it hasn't done it yet. Turn the editing on, wait for the editing to come on, come down to the blocks, and then drop down the add a block list, and I can see what blocks are available. And if there's something there that I like the sound of, then select it, put it into the course. It's dead easy to take it back out of the course again, so that's relatively simple. So it's worth actually putting a block into your course just to see how it functions and see if it's something you like. And I mean, if you're interested in these things, go to Moodle.org and you'll see all the kind of free blocks that are available. And if there's something there you think might add functionality to a course, we'd be willing to trial it in Moodle. So, and if you identify something, flag it up to us.